Education Technology Services. I'm an instructional designer here at UP, and with me today is
Justin Miller. I'm a project manager for ETS under a subgroup called Advanced Learning Projects.
And we're here to talk a little bit about iTunes U, the changes, along with the course manager that they've released in July, just recently, a couple months ago, along with talking a little bit about the iBooks, which they released back in the spring. And so I'm going to let Justin kick us off and a little bit of some history and where we are now at the university.
So when Apple created iTunes, it was basically a place for you to manage media that would go out to the original iPod. And then they created the iTunes Store as a way to buy content, and then they created the iTunes U section of the store as a way to further bolster their content. And that was when Penn State started getting involved, and we had basically that iTunes U space was a way for us to push out publicly accessible podcasts or videos. And we also had, at the same time, we created this kind of closed section where you could tie it specifically to a course and use single sign-on to get into it. And then later, it was just kind of this very bland, it's just audio, it's just video, and it's just a listing of content. Since then, they've come out with the iTunes U app, which is only available on an iOS device. You can't see this view or this app on a desktop. But what this allows you to do is to organize that content in a much deeper way and add additional content like iBooks, which is something they came out prior to the app. But we're going to take a look at the iTunes U app and how to create the content for that, what the affordances are, and also the iBooks as well.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. How many of you, before we get started, have any experiences with iTunes U, Course Manager? Awesome. Okay, what about the iBooks? Okay, cool. So please, this is supposed to be very informal, so please chime in. Let us know your experiences too, or any challenges that you have found. So in getting started, when you first get into the app, this is what you'll see as a user. And so right now I have courses from Ohio State, Duke, Stanford, and then I have two that we're working on here at the university. And so if you want a good example of a really great course, I suggest going into Duke University's Core Concepts in Chemistry and bringing that one up. And so when you first get into this specific course, this is what you'll see first. Along the left-hand side, you will have anything that is pertinent to the overall course experience. So syllabus overview, any objectives, anything that you would need your students to know about as that overall experience. Information about you as the instructor or about your instructor, an outline. And this outline becomes very, very important whenever you start to create posts within the course manager. We'll talk a little bit about that.
So this app has kind of become like a mini CMS or LMS, but you should know this is only one-way communication. We'll talk about interactivity later, but this is only from instructor to student communication.
And what does this instructor use to create this?
The course, it's the iTunes U Course Manager, which we'll show later as well.
And that is free, so you could just go out, as long as you have an Apple ID, you can go out and set yourself an account up. So it's very much instructor driven again. So I'll show you what I mean by that when we get into the course manager. So from a learner perspective, this is what you'll see. So that second tab along the right hand side, the first one was the information that we were on about the course itself. The second one is posts. And the posts, so Justin had said, before this was just podcasts and it was a repository for media. And now this is where it becomes, think about it as a hub and spoke. This specific course manager is that hub where it puts all of those resources into a more digestible learning experience. And so as a learner, you would go into each of these posts and you would complete what it is that you would need to complete.
So these are basically like assignments. Read this section, do this, watch this video, sort of thing.
Okay, so the green check comes up because you've been there before?
You're
just currently choosing that?
I'm just checking it because I've already done that. As a learner, I've done that. I don't need to go back and do that. If I'm in here going through this, it gives me a way to be able to remember what it is that I've already completed.
Where I'm at.
So your iOS device actually remembers that? The next time you come in here, the same things are checked?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So it's a way to keep your own records.
Absolutely. So once you actually install that specific course onto your iPad, into your repository through iTunes U, you have a copy of that course now. And so it is yours to be able to not only place check marks in, but we're going to talk about a notes section too, for you to be able to place notes in. And so as a learner, I go in here and I want to watch Dr. Craig's introduction in chemical energy.
When discussing energy, vocabulary and its relationship to concepts and classes of behavior is very important. So one of the things that you'll see...
So you can think about this if you're using any sort of lecture capture tool also, that maybe this is a specific lecture capture.
And the real power of this is not just in the organization of all this content, but the aggregation of the user's notes around it. So in the top right hand corner, I can take notes in this video that will be timed to a specific time. So remember this maybe, and when we hit done and go back out to the iTunes U app, the course itself,
you can notice the little red flag there. So when we go now into this notes section along the right hand side,
it will aggregate all of those notes from multiple video files, from multiple audio files, but also from iBooks and PDF files.
So it really starts to build, so if your students are good studiers and learners along the way and they're taking notes and they're reviewing the videos, at the end of the semester for that test, they should be able to come into their notes section then and review things.
And this is also another link to the media. So we had wrote, remember this, maybe I want to study for this for the next exam. If she were to click on that, it would open that video right back up, right at that piece of time, I believe.
Energy, the change
And the
in
types of
energy
video
the
that
companies
is,
are
our professors
processing
use
for
media
energy.
site. Can they take videos that they've created on
It
media
would
site?
probably, I believe so. I don't know what codec media site uses, but it would just be a matter of converting it to the right
format.
format.
So I'm going to go to the last tab here on the bottom right, which is materials. And this is really neat because if you're saying to your students, you know, on week 1 you looked at X video, so your students are thumbing through the course trying to find that video, they can actually come in here and they can select, instead of all, they can select videos and they can find that video instead of having to go through that course. Or if they want to use a specific app, or remember that, you know what, they gave me that web link, it really helped me, I don't know where that is in the course, they can go into web links and then look at all the web links that are now offered through the course. So, so at this point, I'm actually going to go into a iBook. And for those of you that are familiar with iBooks, you may or may not be familiar with E.O. Wilson's Life on Earth. I would say if you want a great example of an iBook, this is your great example. So to get started, give me a second here. When you first open up that book, this is what you would see. So that's your kickoff to your textbook for your learners. And so here's the
How
preface.
do they do that?
It's just a video animation.
It's just a video animation. And so
Just.
Yes.
Just.
They paid someone a lot of money.
and again, like I said, these two are really great examples. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is the top of them. So I'm swiping across the image at the top to find a chapter that to kind of dig in and to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into this chapter. And so this is the beginning of the chapter. There are figures, interactive pieces, there are images, there's galleries, there's videos, there's all different types of components in these books. So this is a figure. So when I click on it, it brings it up. You can really get a good picture of it. You have a description at the bottom. And so I'm going to actually kind of thumb through here and give you a couple examples. So this piece here, if I click on the movie.
So this is a good use of a video in a book because it's just a demonstration. It's a very quick. Now, if I had something that was more instructional and longer, I'd want that to probably be out in the course, in the iTunes U app, a post. But this is exactly what you'd want to see in a book.
Here's another example of a figure. So you can zoom up in it as the student, you know, as the learner taking this. Here's an interactive piece.
Action potentials may arrive at the ends of axons as often as hundreds of times
I'm
per
actually
second.
going to click the next circle
They
here.
are shown. The release of calcium ions in urine causes duct vesicles containing neurotransmitter
So that gives you an
molecules.
idea of that style of an interactive piece, and here's a different interactive piece. I'm actually taking my finger and moving this around.
And that's a 3D object, so you'd have to have whatever software you use would have to create a standard 3D object type file that can just be imported in.
What was the first resource called, that one? What's that called?
This one here, this is just an interactive piece. There's different types of interactive pieces. They provide you widgets and the ability to go in and create some of these pieces fairly easy.
Some are very easy.
Some are very
There's
hard.
a couple that are a little more difficult.
So the other one was a 3D. Do you know what that one's called?
That's also an interactive piece, but they're...
We don't know. I don't know what widget made those. Do you know what widget was responsible for these?
Okay.
I know you can use Keynote to make some of the interactive pieces, and that might be what it is.
The molecule one is JMOL, would be my guess. I mean, there's a lot of different
Yeah, there's a lot of different
things that you can make, an interactive molecule that you can move around 3D. There's loads of free,
As long as it
easy
can
to
be,
make ones.
yeah, as long as it can be exported into the format that they'll take. Yeah.
And so this is the end of the chapter review. So you can click and drag the tags and check your answers. And you can say try again if you got them all wrong like I did. And so there's different types of self-checks. Okay, so what are we doing here at the university? We're actually currently working on an iTunes U course, and we've collaborated with Arts and Architecture, specifically an Art 10 Introduction to Visual Studies course. This course is for non-art majors, so it's a very basic course where they will learn about specific artists, different time periods, different types of themes, along with creating work themselves, artwork, utilizing different techniques. And so I'm going to go ahead and get into this overall course. The instructor for this course is Anna Davinsky. And so along the left-hand side, anything pertinent to the overall course information, very similar to Duke. The outline, course structure, any supplies the students would need. I'm going to go ahead down to posts along the right-hand side, and here are several different types of posts. And so it's set up very similar to the Duke University one. And so as I go into this ebook, iBook, within this course, we are going to have not only an iBook we're developing for the course, but also an ebook. And there are going to be several apps that the learners will use. This specific course at this time is going to be a self-paced open course that's going to be offered through iTunes U. So this is not specific or locked down to our Penn State students. This will be delivered and available after the first of the year, and then we will be looking at some other different types of courses. So as Justin said, the course can be private, it can be locked down to just like 20 students, or it could be open. Anybody could take it. It could be something very similar to a MOOC where you have a facilitator and you have a set schedule, and not only are your Penn State students taking it, but also students from outside learners can be taking it.
The sessions, the last three sessions are starting to blend together for me, but I'm not sure if I said it in this one yet. This can be timed, so you can actually set release dates for these posts and push them out. So when you get in initially, if you're in an in-session, if you're doing an in-session, the student only sees maybe the first couple posts. And then they'll actually, even when they come out, they'll get a push notification. So if you're familiar with the iOS devices, it'll pop up on their screen whenever it's locked, and they'll say, oh, I have a new post to read, and look over and then it tells you that.
And so we're going to go ahead and jump into the iBook that we are currently working on for this course.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The students can access iTunes U on a PC as well, as long as they have iTunes installed.
They can access iTunes U, but they will see nothing but a list of audio and video. They will not see the view that you're looking at here, where you can do the notes and you can do the posts. They won't see any of that.
So to deliver a course to students, the students all need to have an iOS device.
That is correct. So yes, it's a great, streamlined, great user experience, but it is a closed system. Make no mistake, this is Apple selling devices. It gives us a lot of great affordances, but we are working solely within their ecosystem.
I'll just throw in here that I, within the last week, polled 800 of my students about what of these sorts of devices they currently own and they would use for something like that, and the iPad use was something like 20%.
20%.
And we see smaller colleges, even in Pennsylvania, are doing a one-to-one where you, as part of tuition,
You
So
get
if
one
you-
of these.
you get one of these.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with Seton Hill University, it's out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. They are actually part of the technology fee. Their students, when they come in as freshmen, will receive an iPad and a notebook, and that's what they'll have through their experience there. And so university colleges like that, small, 2,500 students, they can do that easily.
And this makes a whole lot of sense for them now.
Sure. Yeah.
Where we're just kind of exploring.
I'll throw in there too, since this would work on an iPhone, right?
Yes.
I actually had probably twice that percentage that said that they had an iPhone and would
try
do course materials on.
It wouldn't be quite as easy, but
I wouldn't do it. I'm old.
I've gone through courses on my iPhone, and the video content's fine for me. I like that, but I don't want to read an iBook on an iPhone.
Right.
It's just too hard on my eyes. Now I'm not 19 years old or 20 years old, but
Yeah.
So this is the iBook that we're currently working on. It's not complete in any stretch, but you can see it's starting to come together. And the feel of it is a little bit different than the Life on Earth. Again, this is for art students. And the information that is coming into the iBook is the information that was in the online course here at Penn State. So the information that students would be naturally reading from the website is now in an iBook. And so we're utilizing the course manager as that hub and that way of getting the students to have a meaningful learning experience.
So you're taking the information from the course and creating this book.
Yes.
From World
now
Campus?
and a lot of things
World,
that you
online
see,
or World Campus? Sorry.
This is through the e-learning institute
E-learning,
at
okay.
the in Arts and
and
Architecture.
it will be an open educational resource. We're going to probably run pilots closed in session, but it'll be at University Park or within the Penn State network. Yeah, we should switch over before we run.
Yeah, I want to give you.
But what you see out there now, like with Duke, is they're not always creating this giant iBook for the whole course, but they'll take like a lot of instructors already have several PDFs that they hand out throughout the semester. So they'll turn those into iBooks, or you could keep them as PDFs. But if you had something interactive you wanted to add into a specific packet or small packet or assignment, you can create it into an iBook and send that out as a small 5-page iBook.
There is an instructor right now piloting iBooks with 2 classes, and their classes are developing a iBook.
Yeah, that is the student's assignment is to create iBooks for K-12 courses.
Is that a separate add then to create an iBook
We're gonna
versus
look
the
at those
iTunes?
now.
Oh,
Right. So course manager, to actually develop the course, you need to get course manager, and you utilize a computer to do so.
Yeah, that's just from a browser.
So this is course manager from a browser. iBooks authoring tool, you go out, do a search for it, and you can install it on your computer, and you can utilize it. Both pieces are free.
Computer.
And so on your iPad, they're both apps. There's apps out there that you can install on your iPad and be able to view how you are viewing both of these tools. So as an instructor, this is instructor based. So when you first initially go in to this course, you will need to put in a certain amount of information, including a picture. So if you're doing joint work with other people on this, my suggestion is create an Apple ID that is general for all of the group to use and know the password on. As an instructor, you'll go in, these are your courses, you can go into the course. It's very much, you can see along the left-hand side, this is about the course. And if you want to create posts, very, very easy. So I'm going to go down here to the post that we were looking at earlier, under correspondence with memory, and you click on the little blue arrow, and it's a text editing tool. So you copy and paste in your material. If it's already an online course, very easy to bring it into the course manager, copy paste over. You can add any sort of PDFs, web links, apps, videos. All you do is just hit the little plus circle right here, go looking for it, attach material. When you attach material, you'll have the choice from your computer, iTunes Store link, enter web link, choose from my materials that are already in the course.
And if this is an in session, you can set a date assigned to that post as well.
And so there's your materials listing, the materials that are already in there. If you want to control the course, so say it's private, 20 students, once your 20 students come in, they'll you'll get request notifications here. You can enroll them. If there are people that are not supposed to be in your course, you can block them. All you do is just share this link with the enroll code and students can go and request access to it.
And they have to do it from their iPad.
And through that app. And so right here, this little slider in the top right now I'm allowing new requests to this course. If I did not want to, I would just move it over to off. And no one would be able to.
So this is not tied to single sign-on or any IT administration within Penn State. It's all done by Apple ID and it's all on the instructor side.
And so this is this is the iBooks authoring tool. Very easy to use. If you want to get really super creative with it, it's going to be tough because there are some limitations, but it's very simple to copy and paste information in. And if you have 20 pages of information, you copy and paste it in, and it will just roll into the consecutive pages. With that said, say I want to go up here to widgets and give me a widget to enter.
Pick one?
Yeah, pick one.
Oh, let's do interactive image.
So if I do the interactive image, this will give me an inspector, and we can go ahead and pull any resources in, and this will kind of tell you how to go along doing it. And so there's tables, there's shapes, there's all text boxes, different charts. If it's just a gallery image, it'll already start to pop it in here, and you can just double click and change the heading and the caption to the image and pop in the images.
So I was trying to figure out how to get like a YouTube video.
Um,
And I got really stuck thinking I could just do the HTML widget, but I ended up getting stuck.
we can talk about that if you want.
Okay, I just created a web link.
Yeah,
Here,
we can talk
go
about
there.
that. We have about 3 minutes left, and one thing I did kind of miss in showing, and I think that this is kind of a cool point, is that in the iBook itself, there is a way for note cards for your students. So those of you that are familiar with the iBook, I'm going to go back into E.O. Wilson here. And I think this is kind of a cool feature. I think for me as a learner, if I would have had this instead of just a hard copy textbook going through college, this would have been really, really nice for me. So, oops. Do that always well. Do you guys have any questions at this point?
So while I'm reading this, can I highlight things that I want to?
You just click and hold and then drag.
Just, okay, the same way.
And then
This is
it'll
what your
aggregate,
networks,
if that's part of a course, it'll aggregate right back to the notes section.
There's something about those, you can't export them to a text file, or you can.
What, from the iBooks author?
So, to answer your
No,
question,
well, from the iBook
those
itself.
are notes
you
that I
can take
highlighted as I was
notes
reading
that will
through
then
this
show
book,
up, but you
and then
can't.
it aggregates.
Otherwise, that would be a path to copying and pasting portions of the
Yeah.
other thing. It won't.
So here's the study cards.
So I can't do anything with it from there. I can't take what I've highlighted and put it on something.
Well, it'll automatically aggregate out to the iTunes U app if it's associated with the course. So when you go to their notes section,
I
remember we
think
have
that's
4 bars
really a neat
down here?
feature. And
Yeah,
so
it'll
I have
show
a
you
stack
all
of
the
Yeah, show me
index
everything
cards
that
right
I-
there.
Show me any notes I made or anything I've highlighted.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to see? Any other questions? We are going to be moving probably forward with different things across the next year, really experiencing some of these tools in case scenarios. We're also going to be launching a WordPress site that will talk about our experiences and what we're doing. So if you want to schedule any time with me to sit down and ask some more specific questions related to your course or work that you're doing, or whatever the case might be, or wanting to know when that information comes live, I have business cards here. Please shoot me an email, let me know. It'll also be populated on Yammer. And kind of keep in mind, like the iBook itself can be used for different things. Course Manager is kind of course specific. but I know like if you're interested in looking at different iBooks, E.O. Wilson's great textbook. Abilene Christian University has a 1-year report that they took their first year report for their e-learning center, and they created an iBook for it. So some other
From there, they could export as a PDF too from iBooks authors, so they weren't stuck using it.
So right now,
They're one of the universities that has, I think they have a 1-to-1.
oh, they do. Okay, yeah. So right now we're limited in terms of if we wanted to start using this, we'd be limited only to students who could get access through.
Yeah. You could try a grant to try to get 1-to-1, or see if you can get somebody to help pay for the college, to pay for it or whatever,
Okay.
to pilot it. But there are limitations. It's a device thing.
So what's your hunch in terms of if we just want to start experimenting, will we be able to use this in the, is there probably a way we're going to be able to translate this in the future to some other platforms, or?
I doubt it. I doubt anything
This
you
is the
create.
1-year report for
I mean, you can
the
create
Christian
PDFs out of the
University
iBooks
that I
author,
went
but
to, so.
really, it's going to remain a closed system. It's and the reason I know that is because their motivation.
Oh yeah,
is
sure.
to sell
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming,
That's why I
everybody.
think it's important.
Enjoy lunch and enjoy the rest of your day. If you need a business card of mine, here they are. I'd be happy to chat. I'd like to talk to